This colorful spider builds webs larger than your head, and it's probably sitting silently in your backyard right now. Meet the orb weaver. At first glance, it might look like just another spider. But this eight-legged architect is part of one of the largest spider families in the world, Araneae. Commonly known as orb weavers, these spiders are named after the kind of web they spin, a nearly perfect circle, or orb, suspended in mid-air. Their scientific name, Araneae, places them in a group with over 3,000 different species found across every continent except Antarctica. From dense forests to quiet suburban backyards, if you've ever seen a spider web that looks like a wheel or a spiral, chances are you've already met one. But there's more to these creatures than just their webs. With their striking colors, nighttime habits, and silent patience, orb weavers have fascinated scientists, photographers, and even storytellers for generations. So, what makes them so special? Let's take a closer look. You don't have to go far to find an orb weaver. In fact, they may already be in your yard, hanging quietly in a corner you haven't noticed. Orb weavers live in a wide range of habitats, from forests and grasslands to gardens, porches, barns, and even city parks. They prefer places where they can stretch their webs across open space, between branches, fences, wires, or tall grass. In the U.S., they're especially common in the late summer and early fall. That's when adults are fully grown and their webs are largest and easiest to spot. You might catch them just before sunrise, resting at the center of their web, or see them working late at night under a streetlight, spinning their masterpiece while the world sleeps. These spiders are part of the natural environment, and chances are, if you've ever walked through a web in the morning, an orb weaver was the artist. Orb weavers come in an incredible variety of colors, sizes, and shapes. Some are small and tan, blending perfectly into tree bark. Others are brightly colored, orange, yellow, even white, with striking patterns on their abdomen. A well-known example in North America is the yellow garden spider, with its black body and bold yellow markings. It's big, easy to spot, and completely harmless. Most orb weavers have a large, rounded abdomen, long legs, and tiny claws at the tips of their legs for gripping silk. If you look closely, you'll see tiny hairs on their legs and body. These hairs act like sensors. They help detect vibrations, temperature changes, even air movements. This design isn't random. It's the result of millions of years of evolution. Every part of the orb weaver's body is built for survival, building, sensing, and capturing prey. Unlike some spiders that chase their prey, orb weavers are ambush hunters. Their webs are not just homes, they're sophisticated traps. Once the web is built, the spider waits, often hanging upside down in the center or hiding nearby with one leg touching the silk like a tripwire. When an insect like a mosquito, fly, or moth hits the web, it struggles, and those vibrations travel instantly to the spider. The spider responds in a flash. It runs along the web, bites the prey to inject venom, and quickly wraps it in silk, sometimes in just seconds. Some orb weavers eat their prey right away, while others store it, hanging it like a little parcel on the web to eat later. They don't need to chase or even see their food. Their web does the work, and their senses do the rest. One of the most fascinating things about orb weavers is their dedication to web building. These spiders usually spin a new web every night, tearing down the old one, recycling the silk, and building it all over again. The process starts with laying out anchor lines, usually from high point to high point, like branches or beams. Then the spider creates the spokes, radiating out from the center like a bicycle wheel. Once the frame is ready, the spider begins to spin the spiral, starting from the center and working outward, laying down sticky silk to trap insects. The silk itself is stronger than steel of the same thickness and can stretch without breaking. And here's the really wild part. The spider does all this in the dark, without ever seeing the entire web. It's like designing a skyscraper blindfolded, and getting it right every single time. The life of an orb weaver is short, but filled with incredible purpose. Everything starts in the spring, when tiny spiderlings hatch from silk egg sacs that were hidden months before. These babies are barely visible to the human eye, tiny, fragile, and vulnerable. Most will scatter immediately, carried by the wind on tiny strands of silk in a process called ballooning. This helps them find new territory and escape their hungry siblings. As they grow, they molt, shedding their exoskeleton multiple times to make room for their expanding bodies. By late summer or early fall, they reach full size, and that's when the real drama begins. Mating season. The males, often much smaller than the females, roam in search of a mate, but this isn't easy. Approaching a female means taking a serious risk, because in the spider world, love can be deadly. If the female is hungry or annoyed, she might attack. That's why males use careful signals, tugging on the web in a certain rhythm, or offering a prey item as a gift. If she accepts, mating begins. And once it's done, the male often dies shortly after, sometimes naturally, sometimes as a snack. The female then lays hundreds of eggs in one or more silk sacs. She hides these sacs under leaves, inside tree bark, or beneath rocks. As winter approaches, she often dies, but her young will sleep through the cold in their protective sacs, ready to hatch when spring returns. It's a life of instinct, precision, and sacrifice, and it all repeats year after year. Let's face it, most people don't like spiders, and when you see a big one hanging in a web, your first instinct might be to back away fast. But orb weavers, they're nothing to be afraid of. These spiders are completely harmless to humans. They're shy, non-aggressive, and would rather run away than bite. In fact, they almost never leave their webs unless absolutely necessary. They don't chase, they don't wander into homes, and they don't hunt anything larger than a bug. And what about bites? Well, it's incredibly rare. You'd have to grab one, press it against your skin, and even then, it might not bite. If it did, the venom is mild, usually causing nothing more than a small red bump, less intense than a mosquito bite, and far less dangerous than a bee sting. What's more, orb weavers are actually beneficial. They help reduce pest populations naturally: flies, mosquitoes, beetles, even small moths. Think of them as tiny, eight-legged exterminators working the night shift in your backyard. So instead of fear, maybe it's time we offer a little respect. The next time you walk past a web in the early morning light, pause and take a look. That spider isn't a threat, it's a silent helper. Before we end, let's take a moment to appreciate just how amazing these creatures really are. First, the web. What might look like a fragile, messy net is actually a precision-built trap. Every line serves a purpose. Some threads are sticky to catch prey, others are dry and act like structural support. And get this, a typical orb weaver web can contain over 200 feet of silk, all produced from glands in the spider's abdomen. But the silk isn't just long, it's strong. Ounce for ounce, spider silk is stronger than steel and tougher than Kevlar. Scientists are even trying to replicate it to use in everything from bulletproof vests to medical stitches. And orb weavers don't waste resources. They're recyclers. Every morning, most orb weavers will eat their own web. Why? Because silk is made from protein, and by consuming the web, they recover those nutrients to spin again the next night. It's efficiency at its finest. Here's another incredible fact. Spiders don't rely on sight like we do. Orb weavers have poor vision, but they can feel the tiniest vibration on a single silk thread. That's how they know where the prey is, how big it is, and even whether it's worth the energy to attack. Their entire world is built on touch and tension. And unlike many spiders, orb weavers often leave decorations on their webs, called stabilamenta, zigzag shapes or thicker silk lines that may reflect UV light to lure insects or help birds avoid flying into the web. No two webs are exactly the same. Even within a single species, individual spiders have unique spinning styles, some more symmetrical, others more chaotic. It's like nature's version of handwriting. And they've been doing this for a very long time. Orb weaver ancestors go back over 140 million years to the time of dinosaurs. They were here long before us, and they'll likely be here long after. So the next time you're in the garden or walking in the woods, and you see a sparkling web catching the light, don't just brush it away. Stop. Look closer. You're looking at the work of a silent artist, a living engineer, the Orb Weaver, master of silk, night builder, patient hunter, and one of the most underrated creatures in the animal kingdom.